balance of power at noon.
It's Larry Culp. He's the GE chairman and CEO.
With over 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries.
There is this wall of cash that's going to continue pushing asset prices higher.
Bloomberg on Sirius XM, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
We're seeing a lot of employers around the country now requiring vaccines.
Bloomberg, the world is listening. Markets, politics, and business are constantly evolving.
The president signed an executive order to boost competition.
So we're reporting, analyzing, and watching them all the time.
We've had really massive underperformance in Hong Kong and China markets.
Bloomberg Business Week at 2 p.m. Eastern.
A little bit of a rally on a day when there was disappointing economic news.
What do you think is the biggest regulatory risk to Amazon?
Bloomberg Sound On at 5.
There's a series of antitrust legislation in the works now on Capitol Hill.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia at 6 Eastern.
We have actually seen a rebound coming through in a lot of Indian markets.
China's recovery is stabilizing, not stumbling. And Bloomberg Law at 10.
It seems that packing the court is the only way they're really going to change the conservative majority on the court.
The future of evolution is here.
Democrats are more concerned about too big to fail. Is that fair?
Bloomberg on Sirius XM, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. It's 45 minutes past the hour. Time for a check of sports from around the world. Here's Dan Schwartzman.
Thanks, Doug. Manchester City maintains a 1-point lead over Liverpool atop the Premier League table with a 2-2 draw at Etihad with the Reds as De Bruyne and Jesus score for City, while Jota and Mane score for the Reds. In La Liga, Barcelona gets a Luke de Jong goal 2 minutes into stoppage time to get past Levante 3-2 as Barca remains in second place in the league table. In Serie A table center, AC Milan can only play Torino to a scoreless draw. Napoli loses to Fiorentina 3-2, while Sassuolo beats Atlanta 2-1. The Masters coming to an end at Augusta National with world's #1 ranked Scottie Scheffler poised to win his first major, with Rory McIlroy sitting in second place at 7 under. Other notables are Tiger Woods, who finishes his first tournament since his major car accident over a year ago at 13 over par. Defending champion Hideki Matsuyama ends at 2 over. Colin Morikawa comes in at 4 under. Dustin Johnson at 1 over. Sergio Garcia 3 over. And Patrick Reed at 6 over. Meanwhile, Tiger says at the conclusion of his round that he will be playing the Open in July at St. Andrews, while also saying he may play in next month's PGA Championship. Sources report that Brooklyn Nets guard Ben Simmons could return potentially in time for a Game 3 of an Eastern Conference first-round playoff series, as the 25-year-old has been pain-free this back during recent workouts. Simmons has yet to appear in a game for the Nets since being acquired in the blockbuster trade with the 76ers that sent James Harden to Philadelphia 2 months ago. I'm Dan Schwartzman, that's your Bloomberg World Sports Update.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Yeah, taking a look at your bond markets here. It's all about what we've been seeing in yields once again picking up. You take a look at what's going on down under in Australia. The Aussie 10-year yield up some 4 basis points right now. We briefly touched that 3% level for that 10-year there, the first time in nearly 7 years. And so really following what we saw in the U.S. last week here with U.S. 10-year yields rising to the highest in 2019. Real yields are also getting closer to turning positive, which could be a worry for risk assets today as well. So something certainly to watch. But we take a look at what's been going on. The dollar is around the highest since 2020 as well. So plenty of headwinds for investors here today as we count down to the inflation data out of China. PPI prices set to slow to about 8.1% according to economists. You have inflation CPI numbers estimated to actually rise to 1.3%. But that should still give enough of an environment for the PBOC to continue on this sort of easing bias for the central bank. But we talk about that yield premium on Chinese bonds, given this divergence in central bank policy with the Fed. That yield premium China had over treasuries in terms of nominal yields, you can say goodbye to that. That's about to disappear, currently standing at just about 6 basis points. We're checking the euro-dollar trade as well. We're hovering around 108.92 right now. We've been gaining a bit of steam here, but then losing it in the last couple of minutes or so on the back of what we've been hearing over the weekend with the French election. Emmanuel Macron's better than expected lead in the first round of the presidential election series, so bringing a bit of relief to markets on this Monday morning. the ones that traders were worried about a victory from Marine Le Pen as well. We've talked about the Aussie dollar, the PM also calling a national election on May 21st. Now you're seeing the Aussie dollar trade around 74.60. Not much movement there, but we have seen the Bloomberg dollar index. We're watching that 100 area for the Dixie here as well, and crude prices still hovering around $97 for WTI. So check out the global news. Here's Ed Baxter from San Francisco. Yeah.
All right, hey, Yvonne, President Emmanuel Macron will face off with Marine Le Pen in the second round of the French election. Australia will hold national election May 21. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is trailing in the polls, looking for another come from behind. Hong Kong's leading candidate John Lee has secured enough nominations to win his leadership race for chief executive. Pakistan lawmakers set to vote in opposition leader Shehbaz Sharif as the next prime minister after former cricket star Imran Khan was ousted in no confidence motion that ended his 4-year term. That is Imran Khan. Hong Kong COVID infections have slowed to their lowest number in almost 2 months as it concludes self-testing. China going the other direction. CCTV reports Guangzhou will suspend classes for schools and kindergarten starting today, suspension until April 17th. And now Bloomberg Stephen Engel is reporting that they have a higher one-day case rate than when the lockdown first began, and we'll have details of that in about 15 minutes. In the U.S., Dr. Anthony Fauci on ABC says the country is at a point where COVID will never be wiped out and is becoming an individual health matter. Ukraine preparing for a major Russian invasion in the east, and Vladimir Putin is named a new military commander for the rest of the campaign. In San Francisco, I'm Ed Baxter. This is Bloomberg. All right, Yvonne.
All right, Ed, thank you so much. Joining us now is Tom Kozlik, Head of Research and Analytics at Hilltop Securities, discussed the latest on markets, and particularly looking at when it comes to just this pessimistic tone we've seen for U.S. municipal bond investors, Tom. But there's been a lot of focus when it comes to stimulus being received in state and local governments now, recovery and tax collections. How would you describe the landscape?
From a credit perspective, as you just mentioned, the credit is really good. The credit situation for state and local governments and for most entities in public finance is really positive. We've been talking since March of last year about a golden age of public finance because of that credit situation. The problem is that since the beginning of this year, there's been a very pessimistic tone for fixed income investors generally and municipal investors. Another $3 billion has flowed out of municipal funds this past week, though we are starting to see some opportunities in here.
Well, if you're in the bond market, you got to be concerned about rising inflationary pressures building and how the Fed is going to react to all of that. Friday, we heard from the chief economist at Goldman Sachs, Yonge, is saying the Fed may need to raise rates past 4%. So maybe you just back away and see how high yields can rise before you would be attracted, whether it's in the muni market, whether it's in corporate credit or U.S. sovereign.
Yeah, we're seeing investors handling it in different ways. We're seeing some investors looking at this and handling it in kind of a hit and run mentality, where they're jumping in when over the last couple of weeks, municipal to treasury ratios have actually started to look pretty attractive, and they're to the point where there's actually been some crossover buyers that have jumped in and have started to increase investment. And one of the bogeys that I